Is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, cloud swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Man, I feel like it's been a while for me. I don't know. It feels like it's been a while for me. We got the 3-day weekend, then I'm got Maloney covers on Tuesday. It's like a 4-day weekend. So I miss you guys. I miss you guys. Let's go. Mm-hmm. That's way too long. I had to get new therapy just to figure out how to. I was like, I'm just too lonely now. It's crazy. It's crazy. hmm Emily comes in strong, focus, discipline, patience. That's not a message for you guys. That's just for me. She's like, just make sure today you try something a little new. Make sure you have try some of this, just like we rehearsed. Actually, Emily is my therapist. That's crazy. All right, so we did have a little bit of a interesting gap down yesterday. Was a retest. Great little location to get a good rejection off of. So far, so good. If you're a little bit bearish leaning. We are now gapping past that one. Makes this also a little bit of a retest gap as well. And we do have a moving average. I got the 20 EMA right in front of us. I could give us a little bit of safety net potentially. But otherwise, first first real resistance we got to look at is probably somewhere around 472.37. The next big resistance is probably 473.84. That's if we do get bought up. To the downside, right here is where the 20 is. I also got a VPOC right here around 471.59. So an interesting spot for us to try to bounce back, retest. If this starts to break, the next location to the downside would probably be 470.04. This is if today's VPOC also ends down too, that would be our first 3 days down in a row. The last time we had that was 1, 2, 3, and then we from that point fell another about $6 on the SPY. So that's not too great. A little bit of a potential pullback. Let me just charge my phone real quick. Should be charging. All right, cool. All right, let's take a look real quick at the Qs. But this one also, I mean, technically this would be a gap and go based on the fact that it's just green, but I'm looking at where this candle opened, where it closed. This is still, to me, making progress to the downside for the Qs. I would think this is a little bit of a retest as well and a very, very strong support. So that could be my chance to get a little bounce it open. But you have 405.85 all the way down to like 405.54. So this is a little bit of a bounce spot. Again, I'm going to act as a little bit of a retest on this one. If we start to break, there's still another level below us that could take us into 404.43. That also comes right into that moving average as well. So I don't know if the end of the run is here yet, but it's definitely setting up very interestingly for sure. TLT. TLT. That one is still. We did a fib on this one yesterday. It still has a little bit more ways to go for like a 50% 618 retracement. Definitely getting held up by some of those moving averages right now. We're kind of in a lot of Chopzilla zone, but this is just another day. This is a retest gap. We'll see if we get some kind of crazy bullish engulfing candle or something that saves us from here. I don't think so. I would be looking more at potentially starting a wave 3. If this is wave 1, 2, this looks like we trying to held up a little bit. We broke that. I think this is beginning of some kind of a 3, which would make sense. 4, 5, and then we got to see if we do that longer term. Maybe, possibly. All right, you guys got some tickers in. Let's see. First ones I see is AMD. Mm, so far my little squiggles of trading sideways to let some moving averages catch up didn't really work out too well. Yeah, they had a nice upgrade yesterday, and the bigger. I mean, I'm looking at this chart. It looks like pure continuation to me. We're above yesterday's VPOC. We're above everything. There's nothing. This is close to all-time highs. Looks like we did get a little bit higher. Let me see over here. Last real volume area was right around here. This is 159.42. So we're very close to that. I think with a little bit of worry, just that there's a previous pivot. Someone's going to want to take profits into into the high. I think even if we do break through this, everybody who's ever owned AMD is profitable. Probably will want to take some profit. But to me, out of the gate, so this is going to make, and then you have the SPY coming down. You got the Qs coming down. I would say it's bullish. I just don't know for how long. That is a big day yesterday. I think it would make sense we break out of the highs of yesterday, pull back, maybe close somewhere around 155. I don't want to play the short side of it because it still looks really, really good. And if I was to play anything, it would be either buy the dip on it, if this thing does come back and dip, or still be in this thing bullish, or at open be in this thing maybe bullish for some kind of continuation. Especially if you get a red candle, you could break above. I just don't know how far this thing runs without retracing something. We are pretty far extended on AMD, and then you look at Nvidia, and you're like, that one keeps going too. So everything with the chip story is still intact. Nothing's really broken. People still love Nvidia. People still love AMD. Here's kind of where we were before. So let's compare this to AMD. Right. So this was and it goes back a little further with Nvidia, but we tried to hit there. We had to have some kind of major pullback. We got there to the highs again. Maybe almost this candle. The only difference between today's open so far, depends on where it opens, is this was yesterday for us, and then you came and kind of closed inside day before some kind of pullback. Here, it just looks like we're continuing higher. So I still want to be bullish on this thing. I just don't know how far it's going to run at this point for AMD. But then we at least got some pullback. We got there again. We tried it and made higher lows, and then just kind of broke out. So I can see the same. I'm just worried about targets on AMD. Otherwise, yeah. Emily says, Fed bar is speaking. Be cautious if you are in trades already. All right. So we got some Fed speaking now. They woke up pretty early today. Same thing on Nvidia. I mean, it's just more of a continuation play. I think it is pretty far extended. I don't know. I don't know where else to go with this one except stay bullish until it gives you a reason not to. That also being said, don't be greedy. Pigs get slaughtered. I never really understood that expression because every animal, in a way, kind of gets slaughtered. Sometimes we want chicken, sometimes we want beef. But yeah, if you're already massively profitable, you don't have to sell your full position. Still, you do want to be in there for more continuation, but I would start taking some profits. Maybe not today's the pullback, but eventually I think we get some kind of pullback on these things. Maybe it has to be around earnings. All right, I see Oxy in the chat from my boy Joe. Warren Buffett. He's probably nervous right now. Warren Buffett. I mean, this time is different, Warren Buffett. We do have we're back down to this major support. This is also pretty decent retest gap. We know on this thing we got to get back above 58.47. Anything below that, we're kind of in the danger zone of just a relatively decent drop off. And this is where Warren Buffett likes to buy it. I'm gonna put this on the list. See if we could actually play maybe a little bit of a fade on this one. Fade it bullish. Right now, nothing about it looks like, man, I really want to join Warren Buffett on this trade. That being said, we do have good risk to reward. I mean, if this thing drops, so even throwing a stop at 55.08, something like that. Some kind of stop down here in a swing trade. It's either going to be right or wrong, and then maybe get some kind of red candle in here. But even if we were to take this open and throw it as a bullish play, you're still decent on a risk to reward side of things. Get back up to even here as a target. That's still 2 Rs. Not saying this is going to work at all, or not a recommendation. Not you. I'll just skip the legal nonsense and just say you'll lose all your money if you take this trade. But that's not a bad setup, just on a pure risk to reward standpoint. And you're also playing that retest gap for a day trade basis. Obviously, that's a little bit of a wide stop. I'm looking at resistance coming in a little bit sooner, so resistance would be somewhere around 56.83. But we also know that this is the zone that Warren Buffett likes to buy. So not a bad concept on it. And then if this candle starts to break and we start getting lower than the stop, you could either protect your positions with some puts, or sit through some pain and just do some dollar cost average on the way down. But there's not a lot really holding this thing back until, I guess, the next spot. It's not a huge one, but 48.53. The next one somewhere around 47.40, and then back down to like $40. So we'll see. DraftKings DKNG. Good double bottom at least. We got the Super Bowl Sunday play coming up. So a lot of these things, I mean, it's almost cyclical, but a lot of these things you got Super Bowl, then you got March Madness, and you got everything else where anything sports betting goes crazy. Problem is everybody has that same opinion. So, but otherwise, if we could get a break, if we could get a new higher high, so if we could get we probably get past that wick 34.91. Now you have a new higher high, new higher low, bouncing off a decent moving average. So that looks like a decent pullback. I'm also looking at maybe a 5-wave count in this thing. So this would be a 1, 2, 3. That's a week 3. It's kind of a week 3, and then this is 4. This is 5. This is my ABC consolidation. I can make a case for this. I wish my 3 was a little bit longer. But good bullish engulfing candle yesterday. You got to give us some credit on that one. It does look like we're above a pretty decent support, somewhere right around here. I have to get through one more spot, which it looks like we're opening into a small little resistance. It's not a big one, but 33.77, and then targets to the higher side about 34.45. So that would be my day trade targets, looking for like 34.45. And look to see if that bullish engulfing candle holds. 34.45, so we can make about 80 cents on the trade. We need about 40 cents of risk to make this thing work. So let's see if it pulls back a little bit. If this thing could pull back a little bit, just knowing that we're at this resistance, we get some kind of decent setup somewhere around 33.51. At least that gives us a slightly better risk reward setup. So that's how I look to play this one. So I don't know what we want to do on a day trade purpose, but very, very interesting to watch this one on a, especially with what do we got? About a month till Super Bowl. When do we have earnings? What? What day is the Super Bowl? Does anybody know? I think we have the Super Bowl and then earnings. I feel like that's poorly timed. All right, we got Boeing. Ferris says, do news have a direct effect on stock price? For example, GTA release increasing. Yeah, it does. Increasing the stock price of TTWO. Yeah, all news will. The news is going to be played differently though. So, and this is a good point. News in general. So, how long have we been anticipating the new GTA game? Forever. Let's shift focus for a second. How long were we expecting the and we'll go back to Boeing. How long were we expecting the crypto ETF to come in? They've been saying we're possibly getting this ETF approval forever. There was enough time for a good build up because everyone's like, hey, here's the play, here's the play, here's the play. When we finally get the ETF, everybody who was already in there for that build up for that play starts taking their profits. If we get some kind of news like Boeing gets, where everything looks good and then the side panels blow out, that's news that was not really expected, right? So that's going to cause more fear onto that drop. And people are like, well, what's happening now? And this is where you get those bigger pullbacks, bigger moves. So this would be kind of buy the news of, man, that plane is or in this case, short the news because it's negative news toward Boeing. But nobody really knew that. I mean, you could look at Boeing history and say eventually something's going to happen to Boeing just based on every 6 months. It seems like that's what happens. But nobody knows when it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, or what exactly it is. So nobody's expecting it. There's no time for the buildup. Everything is looking great for Boeing. And then they start blowing out the sides of their panel. And now you have people going, you know what, let me just take my profits. I have a nice gain. I'm out of this thing. People go, that's bad news. I'm going to short it. And you get more of a follow through, a run. That's where you want to kind of buy the news because nobody expected it. Or in this case, short the news. Something like for TTWO, if you get the news out, and we've been expecting that game for like 3-4 years now, 5 years, we could get a run up into that, knowing that it's going to be one of the better selling games, and everyone's going to be real excited on it, and you'll get the run up. But once that game gets released, even if it is breaking records and everyone's buying it, and everyone's talking about it, people already made their money on that play, and then you get some kind of pullback, drop off, which is more profit taking. Typically a buy opportunity eventually, but not usually right away. Here's some news we'll look at that nobody expected. So we had JetBlue trying to go out with the merger, or trying to buy out Spirit Airlines. That came out a while ago, trying to get approval, and we got the judge yesterday saying, and right somewhere at close saying, yeah, we're going to block that merger. So investors weren't really expecting it. We closed somewhere around $15, 15 and change, I think, somewhere in that zone. And then, or we were there. And then all of a sudden we get that big upset news for Spirit Airline investors, and the stock drops 50% roughly. Or at least we were down probably 50, if not more percent. So we got a huge drop off here. I think the lows of the 52-week low is $5.82, or somewhere in that $5.80 range, and looks like we hit that, and we got the bounce off of that. So this is going to be an interesting one. We do have a decent support. We're kind of shaky. I would probably leave this one alone at the moment. Let some of the news shake out a little bit. I think eventually, I mean, we got to kind of go back on the charts to see where we were before the merger news even happened. Are we all-time lows on this one? Yeah, we just kind of pushed all-time lows, at least from my chart, unless something crazy that I'm missing. But yeah, I would let this one play out a little bit. This is going to be one that's going to be interesting. So it's going to be take a stab at it at some low prices, just sit on it, wait on it. But this one could come definitely a lot lower. We still have a pretty nice downtrend on this thing. The entire time we're making, and now we just made new lower lows. This is this COVID? This is yeah, COVID lows. We breached that. We're actually opening, if we open here, we're opening below COVID lows when nobody was flying or doing anything. So is it a good opportunity? Probably to some extent, right? To buy a couple shares, see what happens. But I think with the non-merger, everybody's freaking out at open today. Every single person who ever went long on Save on Spirit Airlines is losing money. I think this is some kind of news that's going to take some time to digest and see exactly what the next move now is for JetBlue and for Spirit Airlines. By the way, JetBlue is actually bouncing a little bit because they're not going to be spending money on this buying out another airline. So in short term, that's good for their balance sheet. Long term, it probably would have been a better deal for JetBlue to make the purchase. And the judge was more concerned with like the fact that Spirit is like a cheap airline. So if JetBlue buys them out, now you have more of the market share. You control more planes. You send out less planes. You cut jobs for pilots. You cut jobs for flight attendants and all that stuff. And then you also have now pricing power to start increasing the cost of those plane tickets because there's just less flights going out. So we'll see how this one plays out. But I think the news is still fresh on it. There might be an opportunity for a day trade in this one, but I don't know. All right, let's go back to Boeing. Boeing is, I think we still continue down on Boeing. We're right at that 200, so we have a little support of that. I think, yeah, we're below the 618, so we drew this one out, I guess, yesterday. So our 618 is really around 210.61. This is a lot of selling very quickly. I just don't know if any of the issues or problems have been fixed or at least addressed to the point of like, okay, so here's our plan out of here. Until we see more statements from Boeing of like what they're looking to do, I would stay away from the long on this thing. Next stop I think we have to come into is probably about 194.46. And then you might get some more interest back at this 180 where we started to bounce prior. So it still has a lot of room to the downside, and I haven't seen any reason why Boeing has really addressed it properly, any of the issues, or had any major conference as to how we're going to fix anything. Yeah, so February 11th, the Super Bowl, so the 15th, so we got Super Bowl, and then we got earnings right after. All right, we got Baba, another gap down. Probably Baidu, probably PDD. My guess is all Asian stock names are down a little bit further today. And I think the Hong Kong market at one point was down like 5%. So they're going through right now. I'm not adding more additional shares here to the long term yet, but I will be. I have no problem actually right here at 67.58 continuing to buy, but I want to see if I can get a little bit lower in this one, probably somewhere in this next stab at this one is going to be 63.35. Valuation, if you're looking at pure valuation from what their free cash flow is and to the actual stock price, it's not a bad deal. But you have a lot of the geopolitical. I mean, the day that China decides to invade Taiwan, you're probably going to get a big. You're going to get a hit on Baba, Baidu, PDD, any stock that's Asian related. But you're also going to get a big hit on the stock market as well if that happens, just not probably as severe as some of the Chinese names. The other thing that's obviously an issue is if China causes some problems, you would have the possibility of U.S. government coming in and just delisting any of these companies because they're all ADRs, and they might make some kind of rule you can't trade or buy or own ADRs. They did it kind of with Russia as well. So we'll see how this one wants to play out, but still weak. Definitely a retest gap. I've seen a lot of gap downs on this one, obviously recently, and for the most part, they've all been bought up. So I think I'd kind of want to be in that direction. I would love to see this thing drop at least down to like 65.88. Otherwise, I wouldn't short at open. I would look for a buy opportunity at some point. And would love to see an initial big red candle, something like that we could take advantage of and maybe play that one bullish. But it does have continued weakness. We are starting to make more lower lows, and we are coming into eventually. We're not there yet, but eventually, getting into like $66 ish, and then back to 64. I think you're gonna have some long term investors trying to maybe play double bottom at least. Baidu 52-week lows. Yep, it's more spy allegations. And Baba, I mean, they are investing a lot of money into. They have so much money sitting on the side. They got really, really good cash flow as well. They did get board approval for some buybacks. The interesting thing is they haven't executed buybacks yet. And again, maybe that's because they're investing heavily into some of the AI type stuff, which costs money. They could be saving it for a rainy day, but they have the ability to buy back about a third of their shares at this point. And if they make any kind of aggressive move to do so, or even if the Chinese government makes it mandatory for them to do so, all of these shares are going to go crazy because now you just own a much bigger percentage of Baba if that happens. So there's definitely it's valuation wise very, very good, but it's going to be a high risk, high reward type play. So just be careful. All right, let me see. Home Depot HD. Gapping down slightly. We are gapping down into a little bit of support. I would expect a little chop out of this one, but watch the levels of like 355.65. They start to break. That should give us some more room down to probably about 353.99. We were down there twice already. Bulls did buy it up. So that's also a level that can break, but there's definitely some bulls probably sitting down there. Otherwise, yeah, more chop resistance on this one, 357.84, and technically it is an inside day from yesterday as well. Let's see, I got 2 more minutes left. Tesla. Actually kind of rallied back a little bit from let's see, 212.51 was the low of yesterday. I'm looking at the other screen, 213.59, so it didn't quite break that one. Not a great open for them. Their saving grace is going to be, well, for Elon's sake, it better be Wednesday, the 24th. So about a week from today. We are at a decent support level. Not loving where this thing's opening. This is pretty much opening exactly where we were yesterday. See if we get a similar type play. I would say we should be leaning a little bit more bearish on this thing, at least down to like 209.24. So we got some room to the downside on this one. I got one little level kind of holding us up, and that is right here. This is probably 213.78. Already, that's the opening bell. Yeah, I think we get a little more continued weakness on this one, but we are also getting far extended to the downside as well. Otherwise, everybody out on YouTube land, you guys have been absolutely incredible. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button before you head on out. Larkin says, would you rather stand in a thunderstorm with golf clubs in the air or get on a Boeing airplane? Woo! That's a deep question. Do I get a parachute or not? I got to think about that one. I'll have an answer tomorrow for